wish people would stop pointing that out.
We did not ask for this, did we? We didn't ask for this. No, we didn't. Not for this, not for streaming.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's sessions of New Horizons 2016. And we'll kick off this morning with a presentation from Rappahannock Community College on a faculty-driven assessment model. And just for some household items, the very first one is please make sure that you have your cell phones on vibrate and that you do use the app for the evaluation of the session, because our assessment team does look very carefully at the comments and reflections so that we can improve and strengthen our conference for next year. Then third, there will be some time for questions and answers. So if you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand, because we will need to make sure that people who are watching and cannot participate on site can hear what the question is. And so please wait until the microphone gets to you before you ask the question. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to the team.
Good morning. I'm Glenda Haney. I'm the Dean of Research, Effectiveness, and Planning at Rappahannock Community College. And we're really excited, or at least I am, to bring you this presentation, because I arrived there about 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, and part of our charge, and I arrived at a very good college who were in the process of doing really many good things, a really good team, and our charge was to sort of audit what was going on there and prepare us for a fifth-year report, which a fifth-year SAC COC report, which we did turn in successfully almost 2 years ago. So in the process of doing that, we also, at the same time, the person next to me, Dr. Donna Alexander, was hired as the Vice President of Instruction and Student Development with basically the change charge, and she really is our leader for all of this. I'm just the person who captures it on paper, more or less, and tries to document what's happening. But we've gone through a 5-year journey of moving from what were good practices, but to practices where the faculty really is leading this assessment charge. And so that's what we wanted to bring to you. So our main speaker is going to be Lisa Tuckey, who is our biology discipline lead and also our lead for the Arts and Sciences program. And she's going to really share with you that this is really a faculty-driven process now and where that is. So without saying that, and we're going to try to save the questions for the end, so we're really going to try to leave time for you to have questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Alexander.
Good morning, everybody. So as Glenda said, what we really wanted to do, Glenda and I arrived at the same time, and actually Professor Tuckey had just been hired, I think, the year before, so we were all new and trying to figure out what we needed to do and wanted to do. And we really decided that we wanted to take what was good and go to great. So this is a story about a journey from good to great, we hope, we believe. There's always room for improvement, but that's part of what a well-done assessment process allows you to see, is where you need to continue to improve your processes. And a well-done assessment not only informs the academic team, but really informs the entire college community about the direction of the college and how to best structure its functions and its internal structure. So there were a couple of things, 4 or 5 things that we diagnosed as areas that we wanted to get started with. And we had a structure that served the college well for many years, but it wasn't serving the college as well as we needed it to in terms of program oversight, academic oversight, because we had divided faculty. We're a multi-campus college, small but multi-campus, and each campus had a dean with faculty reporting to that dean. So the faculty didn't get together as a discipline to talk about discipline needs and discipline assessment. And so that was the first thing that we focused on, was to get the faculty together in their disciplines. We also wanted to make sure that all faculty were aware of the power of assessment and the good things that could come out of assessment. And that started very early, as Professor Tuckey will let you know about. We had de facto program leads in the CTE areas because we're a small college, and so oftentimes that was the solo faculty in that area. But we really didn't have folks that were anointed as, hey, you're in charge. You are the faculty expert. You're in charge of this. And we really needed to do that in the arts and sciences for transfer area, because that's our largest program. We also had student learning outcome reports that were being done, but we all needed to see how career study certificates in a particular area, let's say accounting, fit in with the business management or business administration degree program. And so we got together, and once we started to understand how things stepped into larger things, then we were able to produce more robust reports that were more informative. And then the most beautiful thing was that really the faculty were ready for this. So what we found was a faculty that were ready to engage and embrace instructional improvements, and they really bought into the idea that a well-done assessment would give us that information. You see on the other side of the slide where we are now. And we have our courses organized into disciplines. We have common assessments. We have parent programs. We have SLOs that are tied to program productivity goals. And we have actually reports coming in from all of our discipline areas.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander. Good morning. As Dr. Haney mentioned, I'm the biology discipline lead in arts and sciences, so that's my perspective, as you'll be able to see in a second. But as the arts and sciences, part of the arts and sciences review committee, we had to figure out how to assess our program goals. And our program goals are basically our gen ed goals, which are communication and critical thinking, personal development, cultural, social understanding, quantitative reasoning, and scientific reasoning, and also our productivity goals. So enrollment, retention, credentialing, graduation, transfer, then graduation from a four-year school. So I have to stay seated to run this. So I don't really expect you to be able to read this, but these are just examples. After many iterations, we have come up with a process that works for everyone. It's simple, it's straightforward, so it's working really well. This is an example of our course content summaries. So we use our course content summaries as a tool to delineate where we assess the gen ed goals. So we would like to think that we all require proper English and grammar and everything, but do we really assess it in every class? Possibly not. So we use our course content summaries They have our course objectives, they have prereqs and everything. But then we've now added this part where we delineate which exact gen ed goals we assess. And this is just a tool so that we can look at all of our courses, and then I'll show you our curriculum map, then we'll map them and see which gen ed courses, which gen ed goals are covered well or not well. And then that starts the conversation of now we know where they're being assessed, now we can look at how we're doing with them. So let me see. How do I get back out of here? Whoops. Sorry. So the course content summaries, more general information. Our course syllabi have the course objectives, but they're really specific for the instructor. The instructor's strategy, design, everything. What we have that's common across all courses of the same course, for example, Bio 101, is the objectives and then some type of common course assessment. So in biology, it's practical exams, post-tests, lab reports. In other classes, in math, they embed common questions in their exams. And in English, they have certain portfolios. But the rest of it is up to the instructor. Here are the course objectives. Teach it as you will, as long as you meet those objectives. And then we have this common assessment that we all do to sort of make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yes, there's a question.
Hold on.
Oh.
Good morning. I'm wondering if you can talk about, you talked about the course embedded assessments. Is that done also in your DE programs and among adjunct
yes,
too?
I'll get to that. Thanks.
Could we say again that we're going to really try to save time for questions at the end. So, and I think you maybe no, it's fine. No, we want you to ask questions, but I think maybe you came in after we said that.
So now, of course, we look at all the course assessments, and this is a lengthy document, but again, it's just an example of what we do with these course assessments. We look at them for every single course, and again, this is biology, of course, and we look at, these are examples of the post-test. We look at the results, we discuss the results, results of surveys, and what's most important here is then we come up with these action items. What are we going to do about this? Across the board, they're missing this or this. But to your question, what we do is now we gather course assessments from dual enrollment, from hybrid classes, from online, from all modes
The entire instructional field.
Mm-hmm. And we've got everybody doing this. And then we look at them individually within groups, and so far, they've been very similar. And so then we can look at everything. We were looking at dual enrollment separately and hybrids and online, but now, once we realize that they're the same, then we can sort of look at the general picture.
We own a biology course wherever it's taught. It's our biology course, and so that's. And then, of course, when we drill down, we do want to make sure if a course that's taught at one of our satellite sites, are those biology courses achieving the same mastery of material as the courses that are being taught face-to-face on campus or online somewhere else? Well, so we do those things, but we have the same process for every course wherever it's taught, however it's taught.
And so this is a discipline report, course-wide assessment. And so then what we do is we generate our curriculum map. This is an example down here on the bottom of the tabs. I know you can't read it, but just these are our gen ed goals. Which courses assess, again, which gen ed goals. And down here are all of the other ones now. We're doing all the other courses and programs. And so this, on a discipline level, we look at this and say, wow, you know, we weren't doing much for personal development. So we started incorporating how does this apply to me questions in lab reports and stuff like that. It just sort of helps us get a bigger picture on our courses and out from, you know, the everyday sort of doing the same stuff. So we have this curriculum map, and it used to be just per discipline, and now we're going to spread it out across the programs and look at for arts and sciences, we're going to look at all the courses that are in arts and sciences, and the rest of the school is going to be doing the same thing with all the programs. So then, taking it up a level to the program, we have these, we have 2 sets of reporting. We generate recommendations from the previous year based on the results of the previous year, and then we roll those over to the next year and say, okay, these are the recommendations from last year. What are we going to do about them this year? Are we going to do them? And I think it's important to realize that just because we have a recommendation, because it's important to know that we're continuously working on this. This is not, you know, we said we're going to do this, oh my gosh, what if we don't achieve this? It's a continuous process. Last year this didn't work, you know, so we're not going to do it. We're going to start inquiry labs or something, and the inquiry labs kind of work, but we're going to change them. And there's never an end. We're continuously changing things, but it's also important in these reports to point out what is working and to demonstrate that and say, you know, okay, this is working really well. We want to continue doing this. So I think that's sort of a part that gets lost, that the strategies we're using that work well, we should also emphasize those so that we can continue them. So this is then ultimately the Arts and Science Transfer Degree Outcomes Assessment Report, and it has all the information in it. So it's a huge document, but just to show you some of the organization, and this is working really well for all of us. So
Can you see this in the back?
I don't think probably can't see it at all.
Do you want us to
Yeah.
make it a little bigger for you?
I tried.
And I can say, we'll tell you at the end, we're going to have these available to send to these if you want to see them later in a document with these in. But
So here, this is, for example, improvements made in 2014-15 based on the previous year's recommendation. And on the left are the gen ed goals, and then in the middle are the recommendations overall, and then by discipline. So all the disciplines come up with their recommendations, and then we all get together and say, okay, in general, what do we all have in common? What do we need to work on? And it's amazing how similar our issues are.
And Lisa, if you look, some of you might be interested in this. There's a current focus on making sure that we have soft skills being taught. And if you notice up here under the recommendations, and this was coming from our faculty, not from me or the president or the IR dean, the faculty decided to incorporate communication goals into every course. And so that's wonderful. And then another thing, when the system office asked us to provide some information about where soft skills were being taught in our courses, it was, you can see it was so easy for us to be able to very quickly provide that information. And so that's how quick it is on campus when we've got a question about instruction and how we're meeting those goals.
So these are for every goal, and then at the bottom, I'm sorry about scrolling so much. I hope I'm not making you dizzy. And then the productivity goal is the same idea. We have recommendations, actions taken, and then at the bottom of this, then we start looking at the current year and what instruments do we use to talk about this, to think about this. And so we have our RCC Gen Ed assessment instrument, which is basically a test that the faculty wrote addressing the Gen Ed goals. We have our discipline assessments, this is the second column here. And then whichever VCCS system-wide test is being given that year. And so we use all of this information as well as student surveys. So it's not just one set of data that we are using. And then we come up with recommendations, and this report is in progress. So then we would come up with our overall recommendations and give them to our dean, and she, in this case, will respond and will continue the conversation. And it's continuous. And we have discipline meetings, we have division-wide meetings where we talk about all these recommendations that keep coming up and saying, hey, across the board, we should be doing this, we should be doing this or this. And it works really well. It's a great way to bring in all the things that we're all thinking and focus in on a few big topics that we can all address.
And it keeps us objective and data-driven. So when I meet with the deans, the things that they're requesting, the recommendations that they make to me that I'll in turn make to the president and executive staff are based on data and objective reporting throughout the college.
So that really sort of shows that big report at the end is intimidating if you just look at it, if you don't know where it came from. But it really just starts with any course, we have the common course objectives. So all adjuncts, all dual enrollment, everyone has those. Common course assessment, it's a post-test or lab report in biology. And that helps us all start from the same place. And then as we go to gather more and more information on more and more courses, we look within all the biology courses across the board, and then further up to all the arts and sciences. So again, my perspective is the arts and sciences, but we're also doing this with the other programs at the school. And here's another example of business management program assessment report. So we're all the different groups are doing this.
Yes, and our librarian, our college librarian, is in the audience, and so he can tell you that he also has an assessment report that is based on learning resources and library use at the college and improvements that he would like to see in his area, and measuring all sorts of student measures that are related to how he is assessing his area.
So then last but not least, the closing of the loop. So we put all this, discuss it, and this is sort of where we've got the report that's ongoing, that's a continuous from last year to this year, and then looking ahead to the next year. So it really is a sort of 3-year continuous cycle. But now we talk about this in all aspects. In our discipline meetings, we just talk about very much content-related issues. And then in the academic division meetings, that's we're grouped into by disciplines, several disciplines together within the arts and sciences, and so then we talk about the common issues for all of us. And there are there's a lot of communication between discipline leads and program heads, and there's a continuous communication between all of us, just talking about all the things that we're doing, what's coming up, what's next. And Dr. Haynie came up with this great deadline, and that was the one thing that we all needed. We're like, okay, what we just need deadlines, and because we're all deadline driven, let's admit it. So we sort of have organized this whole process into a very simple and straightforward process from the course on up. You're just continuously gathering information. It's nothing really new. We've all been doing it, but we now sort of have a way of looking at it, all of it, at the same time. And then, of course, these are all the other meetings in which this is all discussed as well. Up to the Student Success Council, which is really the group that really sort of oversees the entire college, making sure that everyone is doing this, as Dr. Alexander was saying, from all groups of the college are now doing this.
Okay, so we are going to have time for questions because our time is going well, but I will take some credit for trying to help organize the structure, not the content. The content, as you've heard from Lisa, is really there, and we've worked to get on a yearly cycle, and I think we have finally, I mean, just now after 5 years, made that to where we really are on a yearly cycle with that.
That's it.
Yeah, as you said, they do have a calendar now, and this is a document that also has the list of our programs and all. But they have a calendar. And if you'll go back, I'll speak a little bit more about what those are. The arts and sciences is so huge. So in order to help them organize that, we could see that there really are 3 ways that they are assessing their gen ed student learning outcomes. They're assessing them at the course level, at the discipline level, and that's the curriculum map, which the arts and sciences people did this right after we got there. They were early on. We're bringing the rest of the college onto that as well because gen eds are in all of our disciplines, but their disciplines did do that earlier, and so having that, they could begin to organize, but they needed a report. I thought they needed a reporting mechanism, so they do that. Then we also have a student survey where the students self-report their perception of their success in the gen eds, and then we do have one core competency each year. So using those 3 together, and the disciplines have both course level and common assessments, as Lisa explained. So I just developed a document where they could report, if you'll open on the general English General Education Improvement Report. And this is just a document where each discipline, at the discipline level, now English has 3 to 4 instructors that meet, plus all of their dual enrollment and their adjuncts as well, who are invited to participate in this always. But they then by gen ed area, which is what they report the improvements they made, and those improvements are based on the recommendations they made the year before. So you can see this is an English discipline report, and it's very detailed. If you scroll down through it, you'll see that they reported not on every gen ed, but on every one that they said that they were assessing directly in their courses. Okay, if you close that one, and then the second discipline report that's done is one where they make recommendations for the next year. And we're trying to move them to realize that every recommendation needs to be driven by assessment and by results. And so they have to report an assessment and the results that they receive from that. And these are areas where we're still trying to improve the way they report. Instead of saying some students, well, I'd like to know, was it 10%, 20%? So we're still in the process of working on improving this process. But you see here, they reported their assessment and then what their recommendation was for the next year. And those recommendations then will be used. And to help them out, I pull these all together into their report to give to them, because that's quite a bit of job. But I'll say that after I pull these together for them into their report, as well as the survey results and the core competence results, Lisa and her co-program lead, they sat down and they did the review of this with their faculty, and they came up with their recommendations and all. It all does come both from the disciplines first, and then from them as a program. And all of our other programs do the same thing. That report that you saw where they start by reflecting on the previous year, we just needed some way to say we were closing the loop and to easily say that when I do the reporting. So this has made it easier for me to write the report to the COC that, yes, look, here on paper you can see what they're doing. We know they're doing it, but now I'm getting it on paper. Go back. I don't think I have a whole lot more to say about that. And then she showed you other reports, and there was an assessment report too. After their common assessments, it's just to capture that they are discussing those. You can go on to the next slide. So just to sum up, we've had a couple of great quotes from our faculty recently, just, in passing, but I had one English faculty said, this is our culture now. We talk about student success all the time. So we're hoping, and I think we have moved from just focusing on assessment, which yesterday we were saying was a dirty word, and I hope it's not such a dirty word at our place anymore, because I think they realize that it is for student improvement, and that's what we talk about. How can you use this to improve student learning? And you go to the last slide. We'll leave this slide up. There's our emails. And what I brought, and we're going to take those to the back for you to pick up, is we have an RCC Institutional Effectiveness Plan document. And I brought about 20 copies. It's probably enough for this group if you'd like one. It describes our process, and in the back it has the templates for all of these. If you'd like, in addition, some of the examples, there's a sheet where you can sign your name and tell what you'd like us to send to you. We'd be happy, and I'll see that we email you anything that you'd like to have. So I guess we're now ready for if they have questions, additional questions for us. Oh. And I think she's going to bring you a microphone.
Hi. I just wanted to ask about the actual assessment and artifacts and what you're doing with them. I know you mentioned lab reports as one of them. Are you getting random samples, and are your faculty all meeting together to score them, or are you using data from the instructors?
So we generate a rubric for the lab reports so that we would grade them all the same way. So then, so we all use the same rubric, and then we report all the grades for the lab reports.
But you do that individually for your own students?
Yes.
Okay, because and we do blind essays across all sections, and then all of the full-timers get together and blind score.
Right.
We
do that with the post-test. The post-test, we just gather all the information, and then we actually just, they're scantrons, so we run them through. So, what's important, so you're thinking grading bias, which is important. But we're also worried about
work. I mean, the amount of work, because the amount of time it takes us to get together and do the blind scoring and see how we differ, and we have third reads often, and it's just a monster.
That would be monstrous. For the lab reports, we have a rubric so that we all use it the same, and there might be a little bit of difference, but that seems to be working. We're also small enough that we can do this. For the post-test, we gather all the data. We don't ask anyone to run them, and we just run them all at once, and so that I really try to emphasize to the instructors that this is not a reflection. We're not using this as an evaluation, because that was the first resistance. It's like, well, if my students don't do well, and it's none of that. We pull all the data and then look at them.
And just another question, I don't know if it's a question so much as a comment. Instead of having the gen ed things that we're meeting across all courses, like you said that bio did a really conscious job of trying to make sure that you incorporated communication as well. We have, for the communication one, just English and communication courses being assessed for that. So we kind of have, particular disciplines earmarked for the actual competencies.
That's fine. We had to go through that process ourselves, and I had to assure the faculty that they don't have to assess every gen ed in every course. Certain courses are going to lend themselves more strongly to rating or quantitative reasoning or scientific reasoning.
Right.
So, the main thing that we all need to remember is to get your process started and then start to refine your process as it best suits your needs over time. And I think you brought up a great point. If something is just laborious, even though maybe you're getting great results, it is time to come back to the table and say, are we killing our faculty, asking them to produce this information? Is there any other way that we could get the same information with less
And I may ask Lisa, because again, they're the experts, and I'm just the reporting person. But I thought your recommendation about including communication was to include communication in the courses, but not necessarily to have a formal assessment of it. And the curriculum guide tells which courses they say. So on those discipline reports, you see they don't report on every area. Usually, they report on the ones that they know that they are so specifically assessing. But
right, and excuse me, we're not assessing the English grammar in the lab reports. We're asking them to write. Just because across the board, we're like, our students are weak at writing. We should just ask them to write everywhere. They should be writing everywhere. And then now the flip side of that with math and biology, our students are fairly poor at interpreting graphs. So we've asked the historians and social scientists.
But we didn't know that before we started doing assessment.
And so we've asked them, can you have your students write a paper about an article that includes a graph? So it goes both ways, and so it works well, and it's kind of fun because you sort of mix it up a little instead of doing the same old thing.
And we're small. I think you've got to think all of this is whether you can scale it to a much larger institution.
And that's when faculty really start to, I think, get more energized about the process, is when they start to see how it works to provide them with the information that they want. It'll answer the questions that they're most interested in. And then if we can help, Glenda and I can help to make it a less laborious process. That's what we try to do.
But
we're doing good.
Did you have early on or through this process, do you do professional development for your faculty on the differences between formative and summative? And
yes, that was definitely the whole beginning process was, what is an objective? What's a goal? Yeah, yes, and yes. And that's why we now have this process that we all understand. I mean, it really was trying to figure out what's the difference between a goal and a program goal and an objective, and so we sat down and we said, okay, this is our approach. This is what we're doing. Course objectives, program goals, and that there was a lot of professional development.
And interestingly, at least to us, I guess, maybe to you, but the three of us and another faculty member or two sat down and had some fairly intense sessions early on before we took our show out on the road, and we said, okay, we've got to get ourselves organized and in agreement about what these terms mean and how we'll be using them, how we'll be applying
here,
them.
yeah.
Were you appointed as a group, or you did this on your own?
Well, Donna is our leader.
I brought the group together, and of course it's a natural for Glenda to also be leading in this area. And then we asked faculty who seemed the most interested, and I think it's it could be any faculty member, and there have been several of our faculty members over the last few years have taken a leadership role in this area.
Well, I think also.
No.
I'm the VP of Instruction and Student Development.
And I'm the Dean of Research Effectiveness and Planning. And then
I teach bio.
Lisa is our faculty leader here. That's good. But part of that is defining it for us, because now those definitions vary. They can vary from place to place, what you call a goal, what you call an objective. They were still, I think, working on what student learning outcomes were, because they were saying, that they graduate. That's not really what SAC COC calls a student learning outcome. So that was when they decided to they did not have the Gen Eds as their goals when we started this.
Right.
They had other goals, but they had been working on this for a while, but it took time, and I'm finding now as Dr. Alexander said, we are bringing all of our units into the same reporting process, library, technology, et cetera. And we have, I don't want to say this, we have a new VP from business, and the language is totally different in business. And so having him begin to adopt our language as opposed to what he brings in. So having people like Lisa who've really embraced this, because when new faculty come in, they're going to need a lot of a lot of professional development.
And we both started our career, as did our college president, as teaching faculty, and so from the top to the bottom, we knew that we wanted to have a robust faculty-driven assessment process.
I told them I probably have taught the longest, but I've taught at K-12 and college, and probably the longest of all of them here. So we were coming out of that. We knew what it was like to be in their position.
First, congratulations. This has been a big undertaking, and it looks like you have an effective model that's really working for you. So it's a lot of hard work, and I went into that. I have maybe a more practical question, and maybe Glenda can answer this one. Our college at New River is also going through kind of a shift in the way we're assessing our educational programs and our units. And I'm wondering, when the faculty or even the unit directors or whoever may be preparing the reports and submitting those, it looks like they're Word documents, and how are you maintaining the files? So if the folks need to access them again to see what did we do last year, what was our plan, and then I'm thinking also for SAC COC reporting,
That's a good question.
if you need to present samples, how are you maintaining all of these documents?
Okay, well, we are small, so that makes it much easier, but we're small enough that I can prepare the template for them. So there's a template which is in the back of this, and it is a Word document with the table. And I actually do the preparation of preparing what their recommendations were the year before, those things, but with the columns that are empty for them to this is what you want to hear for them to access. And then we do have I maintain them on my shared drive, on my drive, but we have a shared drive, or we have an intranet now.
Right.
And I've majorly set up our intranet where everything is out there for everyone to see.
It was important to both of us, as it is a faculty-driven process, for anyone at our college to be able to get into our intranet and see these documents. And so,
but helping them understand the document, I mean, that, especially someone who's working with the first time, what goes in this column, that's what I do. And I've actually, when we first started, I think it's okay for me to say this, it's a dean, Dr. Alexander is really working to say that this is a dean-driven. They are to work with their deans, but I just help them with the documents. And I did sit down with all of the program leads and help them get on paper the first time. And found, what are you doing? I don't have the content. They had the content, but getting it on paper, and it's a very nervous thing for some of our faculty to even work in that. So if they need help with the Excel file or do it, well, actually it's a Word document. If they have help getting it on paper, I'll do that for them.
But the intranet is also where we put all of our discipline minutes and discipline reports, and it's all there. So we just
and they see me coming and they say document.
yes,
because because it's very important to me to be able to access it quickly to report on it.
This has been fantastic. I'm hoping that you guys can speak a little bit about how the communication comes from the disciplines out to the adjuncts and the DE instructors, and then how it returns back. So once that reporting comes back from giving a common assessment at a DE classroom and then comes back to the discipline, the program leads. So just talk a little bit about that communication.
we established a Blackboard, a biology resources Blackboard site. And so on that, we use that as an administrative access pretty much. So on that we put all the post tests and all the, everything, this is how we're going to be doing the inquiry labs. This is, all the information that we share, the course objectives, syllabi, templates, they fill in the rest of the stuff. And so all of our dual enrollments and adjunct faculty have access to that Blackboard site. So they can get all of that. And so then we have staff that actually run around to the dual enrollment, the schools and gather the post-tests for us, and then bring them back, and or sometimes they're sent, but, and then now we have dual enrollment convocations. So at the beginning of every semester, we have adjunct convocations as well as dual enrollment as well as adjuncts, because they have different needs. The dual enrollment is, they have different timelines, different schedules, and so those have been great.
And I'm involved in conversations with the deans to make sure that the deans are phoning, having conversation with those dual enrollment instructors and adjunct instructors on a fairly regular basis so that they're aware of what we're doing. And our dual enrollment instructors and adjuncts are always invited to any discipline meetings, and if not, then they've got the materials that we discussed.
And some do
And the
attend.
minutes.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and that's been a major change. I was told, and we've been told that we're done now, so I'm going to wrap this up for the next people coming in. But I was told 5 years ago that this was not possible for dual. I said this was that we would not get them all on board to do this, that this just couldn't be done. And the same person who told me that a year ago was just trying to figure out how to get his little onesies and twosies to do it. We were way past that English and biology and math could do it, and down to what I told him, would not even be crucial if it got done. So that's how far we moved. I just couldn't believe how far we moved in that part of the process.
Communication.
But as he said, he's telling us no, we have to stop.
Yes.
Sorry.
So, thank you so very much for an informative session.